So folks, we're going to talk about everybody's favorite subject, shrub planting, but how to do it properly and how to treat your plants properly. Here we go.
Our little cage setups here are, without a doubt, the way to go. And you've seen this in other videos with us before, but this is how we want to get our gear moved around, right? Then, followed by what is when we're planting our shrubbery and our plants. And by the way, this video
is about the portfolio nursery collection here from our friends at SiteOne.
What do we want to do around here? Well, there's things we want to consider. Here's things we want to consider planting is soil amendments. So we've got a plant health, oh man. Having a good soil starter or a good soil enhancement, you know, is a great thing. We love using the mycorrhizae stuff. A lot of this, and all these kind of things are available at your SiteOne. So a mycorrhizae root stimulator. It's a root fungus that lives symbiotically. I think I have that right. Lord, I hope I'm right. But we like planting with a mycorrhizae. And that is a fungus that lives on the roots and helps the roots absorb more water and nutrients, and they live together. It's kind of like you see the bird living on the buffalo's back, or the water buffalo's back, eating the bugs. So the buffalo like is cool with them living up there. Well, it's a thing that helps them out. When you're transporting plants, you know, okay, so good soil, and again, the right plant and right location, that's absolutely huge, right? You gotta put, you do not wanna put a daylily, for example, in full shade. It's not going to be happy there, right? So that's a big deal. When we transport plants, we want to use a plant tarp to protect them. So say we're going to put them in the back of a truck or a trailer, we want to cover them with a plant tarp or a plant protector of this kind. It's going to dampen the wind, because the wind blowing over them at 60 miles an hour for an hour, half hour, however long, that dries out the leaves. It causes them to desiccate and lose moisture, therefore stressing the plants more. We want to make this a low stress handling environment as much as possible. Just like running cattle, handling cattle, low stress environment. Well, our plants are the same thing. They're living creatures. Let's go snag a portfolio nursery collection plant out in the yard here. Here we go. So what are 3 common mistakes when it comes to planting? Number 1, right plant or wrong plant in the wrong location. For example, I mean, we've got Pachysandra up there that's supposed, you know, really thrives in shade. We've got it in a little more open area. Now, you can compensate for that with watering, excess watering, which we can do, but you want to make sure when you know you're going to plant something that needs a lot of water, you know, let's say a hosta in full sun, that sucker's gonna need water. It's gonna look terrible in the summertime. So we wanna make sure that we're planting the right plant in the right location. And on top of that, if we're pushing the limits of things, we gotta be able to give them the cultural care that they need, right? That's a big deal. Right plant, right location. 2, to me, in my opinion, is transportation and handle and care of the plants. So when we're picking them up at the nursery and we're not putting a plant tarp over top of the plants to protect them from wind burn and wind drying out, that's a big one. And the third one is actually how they get planted, and we'll talk about that here now. So we went and snagged one of our beautiful portfolio. This is a salvia here, these beautiful portfolio plants here. Always keep them watered, even in your holding yards and all that, of course, is a big deal. That's something we want to do. Planting wise then, here's what we're going to do. Vibe patio here at Almond HQ. And big thanks to SiteOne for being part of this and allowing this video to be part of what's going on. So we're gonna get our planting tool. Another aspect of this is we got all these daggone weeds make you crazy, won't they? Darn things. Uh-oh, got wire, gotta rebury that. But when it comes to planting work, we don't want to handle plants like this. This is in college, you know, the horticultural purists, and I'll shout out Steve O'Neill especially, but and Dick Ansley and so many awesome, Jim Dunkerley, Deb Kanapke, so many awesome people up at Columbus State, you know, really got on us about you know, handling plant material. And we don't want to grab plants like this and carry them around. That's less than ideal. We want to carry them by the pots. That's kind of horticultural purism, I hate to say. We're going to dig a hole, and hopefully we've already amended our soil to be better than what is there naturally. And when I say naturally, we don't want to make it too unnatural, right? Like, there's a couple schools of thought on that as far as like
when we plant a plant, do we want it to grow immediately into like what its new home is going to be with the soil, or do we want to amend that soil to help get it a good start, and then when it reaches out into the maybe the heavy clay around or whatever, you know, then it can fight the tough fight from there. Some people would even argue after your 1-year warranty is up. I don't know about that. What we like to do is get them get that soil blended in, some good composted loam type soil with whatever is native and in situ, I believe is the word, to what's around. We're gonna dig our hole larger than the plant itself, ideally as large as you can financially stand to. This soil looks pretty clayey. It sure does. And so we would really look at adding in some better soil, you know, to this. Oh, that is heavy clay, yuck. Well, for example's sake today, maybe this got, oh boy, yeah, yuck. Well, welcome to the real world, folks. And this is why, oh, that's even better. We got a big pocket of gravel here. Well, we know it's gonna be really free draining clay, right? It's not gonna hold a lot of water. So in this case, if we knew, which something's throwing me here, but again, this is the real world, folks. We're not going to, golly, there's a whole mountain of gravel right there. Well, and so that's a problem, right? So if we're digging and we're like, oh my gosh, we need to look and talk to, good Lord. Okay, well, that's not gonna work. And so with that being said, we're gonna modify and move our studio, because if we ran into this in the real world, we're gonna need to talk about a soil correction to our client, because stuff's gonna have, without building this bed up more and building our soil up, like that all being free draining stone under there, that's gonna really make this soil, and then we got some rain so it's a little wet, but that's gonna be challenging for this. And these are why in contracts and things you need to have clauses in there for unknown subsurface conditions and things. So that's something we might look at, like, man, we need to bring the excavator in here, scoop all this out, bring in some good soil so that our plant investment does proper. We're gonna move studio and go to a place where I know there's some better dirt. Okay, so we're just gonna move over to an arbitrary point here in the beds. And again, we're gonna, you know, we would scrape back our mulch. You know, in a new bed, we're gonna want, you know, 3 inches of mulch. When we remulch new properties for the year, you know, we're maybe gonna consider just 1.5 inches, 2 inches of soil. We're not, or mulch. We're not gonna get too crazy. So everything's pretty soaked pretty well here. So the rain we got last night was pretty adequate. For mid-July, I'm pretty happy about that. That's for darn sure. But we're gonna dig this hole a lot larger than the plant itself. We want that, you know, compaction kills, right? Compaction is really hard on plant material, and we still got a lot of heavy clay in there. So I'm gonna take, legit, I'm gonna take this mulch, I'm gonna put that in there, break that up a little bit, and give us a little bit better, you know, planting medium to try to amend that a little bit. Now we don't want to do that too much. We really need to get some compost, true compost in here. But I'm just trying to break up this clay a little bit, make it a little more workable. Oh my gosh. So, but we're gonna dig this hole bigger. And like I said, in a normal planting job, we're gonna come in, we're gonna strip this and pre-amend things. So if you're planting heavy wet clay like this could be a problem. And a lot of plants are just not gonna have this. And that's where you come back to the right plant and the right location. And so, you know, salvia is not gonna be super happy in here. It'll maybe deal with it, but if it's gonna sit wet, that's also another problem. If this were a low wet area, man, that's not good, because, you know, this is gonna hold a ton of water and you're gonna find yourself warranting plants just like crazy. So the right plant, right location. We're gonna dig our hole. It's gonna be the depth and size of our root ball. It's gonna be relatively flat in the bottom. We're gonna try to not plant on any real loose soil, because we don't want it to sink or settle, right? So we're gonna put that in there. We're gonna separate our plant from its beautiful portfolio container here. And again, we're just gonna do, you know, you might tap it a little bit, kind of knock it loose. But we don't want to beat these things up. We don't want to, you know, shear those fibrous root mass. You know, we don't want to break those root fibers. Now, what I'm gonna do is gonna contradict that, right? You see all this root bound, which is totally normal for container grown material. This is not a big deal. But, you know, in the true sense, we're gonna take, and we're gonna try to break this up a little bit. I just watered this thing, so, but we're gonna try to break up some of this root bound situation we got here. We're gonna just break that up a little bit and keeps this from You know, so on one hand, I'm talking about not breaking up the roots, and on the other hand, I'm doing this. But we do want to watch and try to keep this thing from becoming root bound, which is that total circulation of roots. This again is totally normal in any kind of container grown material you're ever going to get. So we're going to try to do that stuff. We're just going to break it up a little bit, whatever. We're going to look for the crown, which is where the soil meets the surface. We want to make sure our elevation is right. We want to make sure we're not too low and we're not too high. We're better off to plant a little high than we are to plant a little too low, because we don't want to bury that crown and rot it, you know. So we're going to do that. So this guy's going to be in here. Our elevation's not bad. I'm going to increase that just a little bit. This soil is really not awesome right now, so I would really be advising, like, when the soil can ribbon like that, that means there's a very, very heavy clay content in it. So this is not the ideal situation for this video, but it's a great learning point of, like, when you run into this, you really do need to be working on, like, how can you amend this soil? What can you do to it to change this clay content? And a lot of it's going to be adding in like a composty, organic loam, you know, heavy organics, but, you know, compost is ideal. So, you know, again, I'll probably get tons of ridiculous comments for this, but you know, we would want to do that. So we're going to get this built up a little bit here. So it's that we're going to make sure it's nice and firm. So we're going to set, and by the way, this is more care than most plants ever getting put in the ground, for the record. We're going to follow our planting plan, whatever the case is. We're nice, you know, we're relatively good there on our elevation. And then we're going to look at our backfill. Now, generally, like I said, when this clay is not like this, I'm going to not hand backfill like this, but I'm going to try to get this clay broken up. I'm going to get some of this better, you know, kind of some of this semi-broke down mulch material in here. Get that broken up a little bit. We're going to press that in slowly. And we're just going to backfill this thing, you know, all the way up and try to get this worked in, get all this material worked in here. Now, granted, I'd normally be doing this with like a shovel, but for example's sake, this is what we're doing. So we're going to be getting this pressed in here. Again, that's starting to look like a decent mix, right? That's starting to look pretty cool. So again, I thought the soil over here was better, which doesn't that seem like every job you ever bid, right? It was better over there. Well, yeah, soils change a lot, and they can change quickly in a small area even, right? So we really want to, in our big planting jobs, we really want to just figure on doing bed, you know, soil improvement across the whole entire place. This is a riveting video, I know. It's going to get tons and tons of, millions of views. This will be a viral planting video, I know it. But so we just keep amending that soil with, you know, again, let's pretend this is compost. You know, we're just continuing to amend that. Now, granted, we would have that pre-blended, pre-mixed. It'd be really inefficient to do it this way, right? And we're all about efficiency, but this is just a general plant crash course. But we're gonna get this thing backfilled, clear up around. We always want that backfill to be relatively firm and settled. We don't want to just beat it to concrete, you know, consistency. But what we do want to do is get it, you know, nice and firm, so there's no, you know, so there's not much settling in the future, right? So we want to get that. Another technique, by the way, too, is to actually get to where we're going to plant, especially on bigger stuff, where we're going to plant like a small, we're never going to bury the plant material, the stems or the trunk or anything, in mulch or soil. We're always going to make sure that our crown is exposed the way it was naturally, or you know, the way it was normally supposed to be. So, but man, this clay is just nasty. So this is not normal, and this is not okay. I wouldn't really want to see this going in on a job this way. So we would, man, that is some gnarly stuff. So, but we're gonna get in here and work that up a little bit, get some of our pretend compost. Just make sure we're getting that worked in there real good, and backfill. But that is what we do on jobs. We'll come in, we'll hog out the top 6 inches, foot, whatever. We'll auger out way bigger holes, backfill with amended soil. There's a lot of different ways to achieve that. Budget is part of it. Emphasis on the horticultural care is part of it. The horticultural desires of the client, what they're willing to pay for, all that kind of stuff. But we would, you know, we would literally kind of have this mounded up like a donut around this to help hold water, what water falls in there, right? So we got that, we got this junk clay, and then we're gonna bring in our mulch. This is different than our pretend compost, remember? But we're gonna bring in our mulch. Before I was rudely interrupted by a GoPro that was trying to catch on fire. We're gonna add, you know, 2 to 3 inches of new mulch in a new bed, newly created bed. If we're retopping in an existing bed, you know, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. Nothing crazy every year. That's what we're gonna do. But we're gonna get our mulch,
we're not gonna do this kind of nonsense. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna pack it up under here. We're gonna keep it very respectful right around the base of it there, very thin right around the base of it, as long as we're not covering up the plant material. We want to let it stay open and breathing. We'll get rid of all of our clay chunks and all that kind of crap. That's going to leave the site, and then we go through and we finish our mulching and we're done. So that's the quick crash course of planting you know, these awesome portfolio brand shrubs. So these portfolio plants are an exclusive line of premier and premium quality plant material for SiteOne. They help landscape professionals exceed their highest expectations of plant material for quality, size, and general plant health care. All the portfolio plant material has strong horticultural benefits that include enhanced maturity and unique varieties. So that helps you expand your plant palette and come up with nicer and more exquisite landscape plantings. These improved genetics in the portfolio brands, by the way, they help reduce plant disease, plant dieback, things like that. So it's a good quality plant there as well. They're also you know, designed to have increased bloom time, so your client really loves that wow factor. They're going to get that out of them too. So, and then larger, more established plants are going to help you get you know, a more established and mature looking landscape right out the gate. So these portfolio products from SiteOne, check them out at your local SiteOne dealer. And like everything, we order all of our stuff as much as we can from single suppliers, SiteOne being them, for pavers, plant material, some aggregates, even stone, you name it, to be more efficient. And that's the idea. That's the name of the game. So again, repeat after me, kids. What are the 3 common planting mistakes? Number 1, wrong plant, wrong location, right? Full sun plant being planted in full shade. Second one is plant, I think these are in order my last time, plant handling and care. That is going to be a big one. You know, not tarping them when you transport them, dropping them off the truck, throwing them, slam dunking them, you know, whatever the case is, that is a big deal there. And the third one is just general planting technique, planting the plant properly. So that being said, here we got our little salvia in place. We're going to plant in groups of 3 to 5, or odd numbers always. We're never going to plant salvia, daylily, salvia. That's tacky. Don't do that kind of stuff. We're going to plant groupings, just like these liriope right here. We're going to plant groupings of liriope. Never mind the crabgrass right there. And then we're going to plant everything in groupings. Rarely, unless it's a single specimen, like the Japanese maple yonder, or those 3 limelights. We're going to group things. It looks more natural that way. So, and I got to get the weeding here, folks. The beds are out of control. So one last thing, folks, I nearly forgot your other soil amendments. So I really like this. It's a natural granular fertilizer. All these are all sorts of different available from your all your favorite SiteOne locations. They have this is like a mycorrhizae based one with a little bit of fertilizer. You don't want a whole lot of fertilizer, but just follow label instructions on how you apply them. Most of them are just going to get sprinkled in your backfill. You could top dress it like this. Just read and follow your label instructions. But we really do like amending backfill with that stuff, and usually and generally we're going to amend the backfill with that material. So okay, that was the last thing. Now we're going to load up and take it away.